it's back to you, Mark, and you've got some really good news here.
Yes, it is. I'll put it in the context of today's show in a broad sense. I talked about addressing a city council about the COVIDocracy and the governance behind it, not so much the dangers of the jabs, although that was implied. And you've also talked about today, Brian, and you, David, about city councils and parish councils, instead of being a place for public input, are instead places for indoctrination. And of course, the indoctrination along climate lines, along COVID lines is very important, because the reason the WHO wants to have that World Pandemic Treaty, the core reason, is because they don't want any more internal dissent within nation states when the next inevitable pandemic comes along. So therefore, stories like this, dated September 8th, just a few days ago, New York City teachers win their jobs back with back pay after refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. This is the kind of dissent that the budding WHO worldwide pandemic treaty COVID system, this is the kind of dissent they don't want happening within subunits of nations or the nation states themselves or at the individual level. And here's a little more meat on the story. A New York judge said Wednesday that 10 employees fired by the New York City Department of Education for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine must be reinstated with back pay. In a major victory for vaccine mandate opponents, state Supreme Court Judge Ralph J. Porzio held that the city's denials of religious accommodation to certain employees were unlawful, arbitrary, and capricious. The case, DeCupia versus City of New York, concerned school principals, teachers, and other educators who sued after city officials rejected their claims for a religious exemption to the vaccine mandate. This court, this is a quote, sees no rational basis for not allowing unvaccinated classroom teachers in amongst an admitted population of primarily unvaccinated students, Porzio wrote in a 22-page opinion. Quote, as such, the decision to summarily deny the classroom teachers amongst the panel petitioners based on an undue hardship without any further evidence of individualized analysis is arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable. As such, each classroom teacher amongst the panel petitioners is entitled to a religious exemption from the vaccine mandate. So this is a pretty significant victory. There's other things like this going on, mostly going this same direction. This is one of the more highlighted ones. But again, this is the kind of dissent that the WHO treaty people and what they're trying to solidify and centralize at the worldwide level. This is what they're trying to blot out for future pandemics. This shows workers in New York City. Workers are essential, mandates are not. New York City's vaccine mandate for all Department of Education workers was in effect from October 2021 to February 2023. Thousands of teachers and other education workers lost their jobs under the policy for refusing to comply with the mandate. Sujata Gibson, lead attorney for the plaintiffs, celebrated this victory as a watershed moment in the teachers' 2-year fight for relief. According to a news release by RFK Jr.'s Children's Health Defense, a nonprofit founded by vaccine skeptic and Democratic presidential candidate RFK Jr. So there you go. It's a pretty well highlighted example of what the WHO's hoped for system doesn't want to see. So pretty good news, and I think we'll see more of it.
Thank you very much for that, Mark. And of course, a lot of effort by a great many people in order to make that judgment happen. And this is the key thing, isn't it? It's many people doing a little work in order to get the big result. So we're going to encourage the UK column audience to think about this. What can you do in your community, even via your parish council, to challenge what's happening and make a difference? Good things do come to those who try.